and welcome back to the Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I am pretty good, sir. How are you?
I am well. It's been a long day, but yeah, good stuff this week for me at least. So
Cool.
yeah, always good. Do you want to kick us off though?
Sure. I will start with Uglies.
Uglies, yes. Tell us all about about.
So
Uglies.
this is a Netflix show, directed by McG,
Oh no.
who, let's
He's
face it,
hit and miss for sure.
is, and I don't think he's done anything.
I was just thinking that. When was the last time he did a good thing?
Well, I think he's directed episodes of stuff.
Yes,
but
that was kind of his bread and butter, wasn't it? Was the old
yeah. So he's
episode
Winchester's. Oh dear. He apparently. So he did 12 episodes. Turner and Hooch. Apparently, that's a really good series.
Really?
Apparently so. Yeah, I've heard that.
Okay, I chucked that in with Miami Vice and Lethal Weapon and
Yes,
all the
yeah,
other
I was
TV
just like,
shows
yeah, no.
and just assumed it was going to be terrible. But okay.
I watched one episode of that Lethal Weapon series.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
And it was exactly what I thought
That
it was
was
going to be.
hardcore bad. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did 35 episodes of that.
Oh wow.
Oh, he did that babysitter thing. Oh no, produced maybe.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I mean, I really only have a soft spot for his Charlie's Angels movies because I fucking love those movies.
Yeah.
So anyway, so directed by him, starring Joey King, Brianna Jew, and Keith Powers. So basically, it's based on a YA novel.
Yeah.
Written.
I could tell from the poster.
Yeah, it's very YA.
Yeah,
It's
screams YA.
basically after global warming and massive wars, Earth is pretty fucked. But some scientists came up with this new flower that saved all of the food problems.
Okay.
And now everybody basically lives in this sort of city where at 16 you are basically forced to have surgery to be the perfect you.
Okay.
So everybody gets to be the prettiest they can be, which technically, supposedly, if everybody's perfect, then there are no wars and no conflict.
I think there is some pretty big flaws in that logic. But okay.
So anybody that doesn't have that, they're called uglies.
Yeah.
So and the kids are all
because
they're called uglies until they're 16.
No good-looking person has ever been in poverty or war or had anything bad ever happen to them ever. No.
So basically, our main character is Joey King. She's Tally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to be very nice and say that the reason why the kids that they choose, like for supposedly before their 16th birthday,
yeah,
I'm going to say that they've chose them because they're all fucking pretty, obviously already. That's the thing, and I think I want to be. I'm going to be generous and say they planned that because they're not perfect. They're just good looking, sort of thing. Okay, because fucking no way.
None of the people on this
Joey
poster
King unattractive.
No, and
Joey King has a slightly big nose. Oh dear, she's hideous.
It reminds me of that fucking Ready Player One movie. Where the whole time the girl's like, "Oh, my face! You can't see my face," and then you see her, it's like, "You look gorgeous. You've got like a tiny birthmark. Like, what are you talking about?"
Even show it properly in normal light. It's like, yeah.
Oh god.
Apparently, in the book, she's overweight and it's like really, really severe. But
sure, but like,
it's the same in the one with the moving cities.
Oh yeah, I can't think of the name of it. I know the one you mean.
The main character in the books, like half of her face is missing.
It's like a beauty scar on.
Yeah, she's really disfigured, and in the movie, she's just got a scar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hate it when they do that. It just shows a lack of sort of
Well, it undercuts like a lot of the themes as well, because with Ready Player One, like, I thought the whole point was that he would meet her, she would be scarred, which is, you know, what she's kind of making out the whole way through, that there's something wrong with her, and he would love her for her and wouldn't care. But when he meets her and she's a fucking supermodel anyway, you're like, well,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's
it's Olivia Cook, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, Olivia Cook. So yeah, sure, she's hideous.
Yeah.
I mean,
anyway, yeah.
I mean, you could go back to things like she's all that and that. It's like, oh no, she wears glasses.
Yeah, she wears glasses, so she's ugly.
So I want to be generous and say that's the point, because
sure, that may be.
When you see the surgery ones, they are like, obviously the effects they've been filtered within an inch of their lives, and they're all, you know, flawlessly beautiful. Because like her best friend, Paris, he does have a sort of slightly broken nose,
mm-hmm.
and they call them, when they're younger, they call themselves by their flaw. So he's the nose, and she supposedly is called Squints. And you do get this funny scene where, so her parent, in these instances, that all these kids live in these blocks, and they're controlled by an AI. So most of the things is controlled by AI, obviously, and all the kids basically are just dropped off by their parents, and their parents fuck off, you know. So this girl, the parents that drop her off and say, oh, you know, we'll see you when you're pretty, sort of thing. Off you go, you know, and they'll sort out your squinty eyes. So she's called Squints. And I don't know whether you've really looked at Joey King. Joey King has huge blue eyes.
She does on the poster. She's got very big eyes.
Yeah, they could have found a different. She should have been called Nose, because she's got a slightly big nose. But
yeah, I mean, if it's a society that picks on any flaw,
exactly,
then sure. I mean, I don't think that's a flaw, but fine. Like, I could see how a society that's that way inclined would think that. But Squinty is the opposite of her eyes. Yeah.
So they're told that there are people living out there somewhere, hidden away.
Sure.
They're living their own lives, and they're growing their own food and all that sort of stuff. So she kind of gets they leave the compound sort of sneakily. They leave, and she sort of ends up getting in contact with them, well, through fire and people turning up. But it all goes obviously a little sort of pear-shaped, and she goes back, and then she meets a new friend, and this new friend is again, she's like, oh no, I'm not getting fixed. You know, I'm going out. I'm going to go and live with these other people. I've got the secret code and stuff and all that sort of stuff. So they go out, but she decides she's not going to go. She comes back, and then the big bad turns up, played by Laverne Cox, who is like super scientist lady who you know came up with this surgery plan in the first place and made up, you know, all this stuff. And she sort of says, well, you know, outside they're making a weapon, and they want to destroy our whole way of life. So they're clearly bad people. So I want you to wear this charm and go and find them and bring her back, because, you know, she's in danger. So of course you get the whole, they go out, they find it. Oh,
you get Logan's Run. Yeah,
pretty much. You get a sort of Logan's Run sort of thing where, you know, then they find that she lives with these people and blah 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 blah. You find out that, spoiler, they don't just make you pretty; they also fuck with your brain.
I never saw that coming.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like shock horror. They mess with your brain so that you're a dumbass.
Now, question.
Yes.
Because I'm 40.
Yes.
Were YA novels like this when we were kids, and we just didn't notice? Because it might be. Like, genuinely, it might just be that, you know, because I'm not a teenager, maybe I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe if I was a teenager, I'd be like, cool.
When we were kids, there were
There were
really young adult books in that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite the same market. There were certainly books that were aimed at a sort of teen.
Yeah.
I mean, things like Watership Down and stuff is sort of, you know, and the Tripods was pretty YA.
Yes, well, the Tripods was definitely YA. Great series as well.
They kind of existed. They just weren't really a big thing. I don't think until
Mm.
I guess the sort of 90s is when late 90s is probably when they properly picked up, isn't it? In the early
Yeah.
2000s. So you know,
I think it was like Hunger Games and Twilight
yeah,
and things
Hunger
that
Games
really.
definitely blew it up.
Yeah.
And, you know, all Divergent and all those sort of things that you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the movies opened up a new sort of genre for a while as well. You know, and they're still going. They're still making that sort of thing. And I think I guess the dystopian thing really appeals to teens. It seems to be what it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always used to be fascinated by it, but I'm still kind of into it now, the post-apocalypse thing. So yeah.
Yeah. It's. I mean, as we encroach ever into dystopias,
As it becomes reality. Like, yeah.
I've got less time for them, to be fair. But
no, I agree. Actually, I feel the same. Like I just don't want to watch any movie about a virus anymore. I'm like, I have no interest, like none. And yeah, like the more the world becomes dystopian, the more I'm like, oh god, yeah, I get it.
So it's fine.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
not worst, far from the best. Joey King's is a really lovely presence. She's great. She's doing all she can. She's watchable. You keep with her, and it's has its all the beats are there that you expect. All the sort of the betrayals, the sort of little action scenes, which are okay. They're not brilliant, but they're fine. The sort of enhancements to people is quite interesting. The effects aren't great. There's a lot of sort of hoverboard stuff.
Okay.
Which is, some of the things they do is kind of cool with the technology. There's a nice idea of I think it's Shay has this like cube that she throws, and then it molds the ground into like a part like a skate park for her, so that they can hover around. And that was kind of a nice little neat idea. I like that. It was obviously not it's been done before, but it was quite nice, even if the effects weren't up to scratch. Laverne Cox was suitably evil as the big bad. I kind of like what they did at the end. It was a nice little thing. It does make you think, well, how? But
right,
sure. Because it's clearly set up for another.
Sure. I think all of these YA things go that way. They're all like, we're going to do like 5 movies.
Yeah, I don't know how many books there are, but apparently Joey King was a fan of the books, so it was.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's great.
Yeah, she really liked the character, so certainly she was, doing a pretty good job from what it is. It was filmed fine. It's like it very much does feel like a G movie.
Yeah.
Maybe not as sort of funny as some of the other stuff he's done, but it has its moments. Honestly, it was not fun enough, and I can't honestly see them making a follow up. But if they do, I'd give it a go, because they're I'd like to see what they do with it. It was an engaging enough story. It was nothing new or brilliant, but it was fine.
Yeah.
It was okay, and I guess I'd recommend it to anybody who likes this sort of thing and isn't expecting the Hunger Games. Because let's face it, I genuinely like the Hunger Games. I think it's a.
Oh, I think the at least the first 1 or 2 are fine.
Yeah. It's the unnecessary splitting of the end was stupid, but
that was very in vogue at the time, though.
It was. Yeah. It's like, let's make this 3 movies. It's like, why? It's one fucking book, and it's not that big a book.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's fine. It's not great, but it's engaging enough. I've certainly seen worse YA adaptations.
Sure.
It's kind of saved by the cast. Actually, the cast are fine. They're mainly, I guess, mainly Joey King is the star here, and she does a pretty good job.
Cool. Well, that's something. I'm not sure I'll be watching it, but I appreciate that it exists, and that's great.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I can't see many people watching it unless they're into that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I mean, these YA things do really well sometimes, so yeah, cool. Well, speaking of fine, I saw Rebel Ridge on Netflix. It's the new Netflix action movie.
I knew I should have watched that. That was on my list to watch. I thought I'll watch this other thing first, and then I'll go back.
And then you didn't.
No.
Directed by Jeremy Saulnier, starring Aaron Pierre, Don Johnson, Anna Sophia Robb, David Denman. This is First Blood, kind of.
That's kind of what the thing I got.
Yeah, it's kind of First Blood meets Jack Reacher.
Yep.
Which is what I was expecting going in. The trailer's very clear that that's what this is.
Yeah, it's not really a surprise. So.
No, it's not a surprise. And much like that, what was the Jessica Alba movie we watched a couple of weeks back? Similar to that.
Trigger Warning, was it?
Yes, Trigger Warning. Now, this is better than Trigger Warning, but it's very similar in that, like, I know what I'm getting myself in for.
Yeah.
Different tone to this movie. This movie is much more kind of serious in tone. I thought Trigger Warning was silly, very silly.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure intentionally, maybe I'm giving it too much credit. But anyway, so this movie follows Terry Richmond, who is a former Marine. His cousin, has a history of drugs and is going to prison. He has in exchange for a plea deal, he is given evidence against some big time drug boys. So he is able to be bailed, and Terry is on his way to post bail. The problem being that if he doesn't post bail, there is a ticking clock because his brother is going to prison. And in prison, the people who know the people that he's ratted out will stab him to death or something.
Yeah, he'll get shivved.
As soon as he gets there. So that's the ticking time bomb. He's cycling in, and he is stopped by asshole cops who basically he's got his headphones on, and they try talking to him. He doesn't hear them, so they tell him to pull over. He doesn't hear them, and then eventually they take him off the road. They ram him off the road, and they arrest him. And it kind of escalates. He tries to be polite, and they're just being assholes, clearly. Then they find the money. He's got like 40 grand in cash or something, because his plan was he was going to bail his brother out with 10 grand, and the rest they were going to buy a truck or something and drive across America or do something or start a business.
Okay.
Basically, Terry worked for this, I think it's like a Chinese restaurant, and he had like shares in it or something, and he's cashed it out to go and get his brother out of prison. Anyway, these corrupt cops take him back to the station, and then eventually they're like, yeah, okay, look, mistakes have been made, you can leave, but we're keeping the money. And thus starts the assholery of all of this, where they're like, well, one of the police ladies is like, well, technically they can keep hold of it for however long, and there's not much you can do about it. And also, I've seen this happen in this town quite a few times. They tend to do this to people passing through. You will spend more money trying to get your money back than if you just walk away. Effectively, they'll tie you up. And it's quickly revealed, it's not really a spoiler, it's quickly revealed that the police station is on its ass. They've got no money. The town has very little money. So what they've been doing is basically getting the police to rob people on the way through, and they're taking things as evidence, and then that's the cash fund for the next year. It's paying for whatever. And obviously Terry's 40 grand is being used for that. Terry is meanwhile trying desperately to get 10 grand back. That's all he needs to bail his brother out. He's like, forget the rest, I just need the 10 grand. But these cops just kind of stop him at every turn. He goes and tries to get legal help, and it's clear that a lot of the legal department are also corrupt. So eventually, I won't go into spoilers as to what happens, but he kind of snaps, and it ends up being him very reluctant at first, but ultimately deciding he's going to have to take down these cops. Biggest difference between this and I guess something like First Blood is that he's not broken by war or insane or killing people. He's a close quarters combat expert.
Right.
But I think he's seen, if he's seen service, he's seen very limited service. He was training people in martial arts, and he trained people in a lot of this stuff, but he hasn't actually done much of it. So he's very good and he's very smart, but I don't think he kills anyone through the whole movie. Like, he disarms people, he beats people up, but he doesn't kill. Yeah, it's great, right? So I really enjoyed this movie, is what the point I'm trying to make. This movie, I thought it's, again, much like Trigger Warning, it's a type of movie we don't see much of these days. And I was like, oh, okay, small town asshole cops versus ex-army guy. I like those movies. Those are movies I enjoy. You know, they're a fun way to spend an hour and a half or whatever. And I thought this was great. I thought the performances were great. I thought the cops are suitably awful. You know, you just want to see them beat up. And in fact, by the end, I'm like, you could kill a couple. You know, you know what I mean? Like, you could
go on, just maim a couple.
Yeah.
Don Johnson's pretty good at playing an asshole. So
he's superb as the chief. Yeah, he really is an asshole. It's a really tense, well made. It's a simple movie. You know what this movie is.
Yeah.
But it's well made, it's well done, it's well executed. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good fun. You know, it's got heart, and I think having the because the cops are not going to be after him.
Yeah.
Unlike First Blood. It really helps to have that ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
So that was really cool, because he's like literally on the prison truck if he doesn't get this money. And yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I honestly, as a little kind of Netflix action movie, I think it's probably one of the best I've seen that Netflix have put out. Probably not up there with what was the Extraction?
Extraction, yeah, Extraction.
I mean, that was super. But this is up there, you know, in terms of what it's trying to do. I think it's a really, really fine movie. I definitely recommend checking this one out.
Well, the director's previous movies were Green Room and Blue Ruin.
Yeah, both of which I thought were great.
Green Room I thought was okay, but Blue Ruin is phenomenal.
I like Green Room actually quite a lot.
Great movie. So yeah, I was certainly tempted to give it a go, and I just didn't get round to it. So you said that.
Yeah, and I think the lead plays that cool, calm, and collected character really well.
He certainly looks cool.
He's great.
Look at him.
Yeah, he's really good. So, yes, that was Rebel Ridge, and I definitely recommend it. So, yeah. What else have you watched?
So I will go with The Beast. So, Beast, the French movie came out last year, but was only recently here. Directed by Bertrand Bonello, starring Léa Seydoux and George McKay. So, it's very roughly based on a short story by Henry James,
right?
Called "The Beast in the Jungle." So, the short story is about a guy who has this impending sort of fear that something major will happen to him,
right?
And basically,
he's watched too many episodes of Casualty. That's what I did.
Yeah, he's watched too many episodes of Casualty.
I still do that to this day. I will literally, like, Casualty has scarred me for life. Casualty, for people that aren't from the UK, was probably still is a hospital drama And yeah, I still to this day I'll be walking, because what happened in Casualty every episode was someone will be walking down the road minding their own business, and then their life will be irrevocably fucked up by some horrible accident.
House will fall on them.
Yeah.
Or...
And so I still get that sometimes. Sometimes I'll just be in a perfectly good mood walking along in the sun, and then all of a sudden, like, Casualty music comes into my head, and I'm like, something's gonna happen.
The cool thing for us as well is that it was originally filmed in Bristol.
In Bristol,
so,
yeah.
And I've been on the sets many times. I've walked past them, like, filming it. And one of my friends was actually in the background of an episode as he sort of casually drove past.
Amazing.
With his sunnies on.
Did he slow down?
Yeah. And also, they filmed in the Eclipse.
Yes.
Went back when I was bloody working there, so this is going back. Full moon eclipse, many moons ago. So yeah, so I've got a real soft spot for
me too.
Old Casualty. Now it's filmed in Wales, and it's a bit weird now.
So anyway, sorry.
But yes, so where was I?
So you have a man who has a fear of impending doom.
So he has a fear of impending doom, and basically, there's a woman he sort of kind of loves, but he sort of refuses to get with her because he's sure that something terrible will happen. So basically, in the end, I think at the end of the story, he's wasted his entire life, and he realizes that he could have had so much, but the idea of his fear stopped him from doing anything, basically.
Right.
So in this, we have Leah Stu's character, who in the future of, I think it's 2044, I think it is. Again, after disaster and civil war and horrible things, AI is now in control, and human emotion is basically seen as the cause of all these wars and things. So people now of AI control most of it. People are in jobs, but not very many humans are in jobs. They're sort of seen as sort of useless and a bit, just pointless. And her character has a job where she basically sits in a room and occasionally gets up and takes the temperature of some sort of machine. But she wants to have a better job. So you never see these AIs. They're just voices that talk to her. And she's like, I want a better job. And they're like, well, you're a bit too emotional. You're not suited for anything better. But there's this procedure you can have. So there's this procedure you can have where they regress you to your past lives, and they sever your connection to your past lives to get rid of all your past trauma.
Right.
So she then is taken back to 1910 in Paris, and there's this. She's a pianist who is married, but when they're at this sort of exhibition, she bumps into George Mackay's character, who says, "Oh, do you remember me?" And she's like, "No." It's like, well, a couple of years ago we bumped into each other, and you told me this thing. You told me this, that you had this fear of impending doom. And she's like, well, I've never told anybody else that, so it must be true. She sort of vaguely remembers it, but doesn't, and he's like, it's fine, sort of thing. But they have this clearly have this weird connection, and she sort of talks to him, and she sort of meets him, and they talk about what it is that she's afraid of, and life, and there's a particular piece that she's learning to play, but she can't find the right emotion to connect with it.
Okay.
And he's saying, does that matter? And she's like, well, no. She says, you can play it, doesn't matter. But I think if you want to feel the music, then you should have a connection with it. And they have this, her husband has this doll factory, and there's a lot of heavy symbolism in this movie, sort of, there are dolls and sort of things, because when you get to in the future things, there are these sort of, she gets assigned this blank sort of doll, they call her, and she's there to sort of look after her and make sure that the trauma of being severed or whatever isn't too much.
Right.
And they go to this nightclub where they're playing 70s music, and she bumps into George Mackay's character. And first of all, she bumps into him when she's going to get this surgery, sort of thing, as it were. And then she bumps into him again at this nightclub, and they have this sort of conversation. And again, there's all these weird sort of feeling of connection between the two. And then there's another visit, another version of herself from the early 2000s. I think it's 2011 or 12 or something like that. And in this one, she's in America, and she's an aspiring actress.
Right.
Wait a second. Excuse me. She's an aspiring actress who is house sitting this rich person's house in the Hollywood Hills.
Okay.
And in this time, George Mackay's character is this horrible lunatic incel,
right,
who's driving around filming himself saying, "Hey, this is me. I'm a virgin. I'm a 30-year-old virgin. I've never been with a woman. Women seem to be repulsed by me, but I'm lovely. I'm
yes, I'm sure you're wonderful. Yeah,
exactly. I'm fucking great. I've got great clothes. I've got a great car, and blah blah blah."
Oh, it's like Andrew Tate, is it?
Yeah, it's the broadest strokes incel you can find.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's stereotypical.
It's done well.
Well, yeah, of course, and you're doing multiple things here, so yeah, you kind of have to be.
So yeah, and I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the future stuff is like the more she goes in to have these sort of regressions, the more it's making her emotional, the more she's wanting to connect with other people and wanting to sort of have these sort of relationships and find out more about life, and not she feels that she could be better than just this job that she's doing, and it's interesting. It's, as I said, some of the symbolism is pretty heavy-handed. The actual ending, I thought, was a bit I've heard someone describe it as an episode of Black Mirror stretched to 3 hours.
Right.
Which I can kind of see, but I wouldn't be that, that wouldn't be my assessment of it. But I will say it's too fucking long. I think it's 2.5 hours long. And towards the sort of middle bit, the 2010 section is a little bit meandering. There's a little, it goes on a little sort of, so come on, something's got to fucking happen now. There's some nice sort of stuff with this sort of, she goes to see this psychic in the 1900s who tells her this sort of thing and tells her a sort of about, well, there's a thing about pigeons and stuff. It's like, okay, right. And the sort of the same basic character turns up again as a sort of internet fortune teller that she speaks to, and there's some really nice little bits and pieces with that, and it there's this sort of feeling as well, because you've got her as this actress. I mean, the very start of the movie, it's her acting on a green screen, being directed by the actual director.
Right.
So you have a sort of meta steps throughout the movie, and there are sort of weird little rewinds and sort of things that just feel like they're from other movies, but you can see the emphasis. At times there are very Lynchian bits, and there are very, you know, I can't remember the name of that guy. Is he Dutch? I forget the name. But there are you can see the influences. You can see, you know, the sort of ideas that the director's playing with. I really enjoyed it, but there was a couple of times where I just thought, "Oh, come on, it's certainly too stretched out. It's too long." Léa Seydoux is wonderful. Is this sort of, you know, broken but trying to find something to hold on to. First, you know, person, which, you know, in all the times, sort of, you know, there are this, you know, sort of thing. It has a sort of a hint of Cloud Atlas about it, you know.
Okay, yeah.
It's not quite the same thing, because it's you know, that is these people are reincarnating into different things, and there's that whole stuff, which I loved. Cloud Atlas. I think it's one of those.
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy Cloud Atlas.
It's a movie that I think it either hits you or it doesn't, and I think this is very much like that. It's going to be one of those movies that I think will test people's patience quite a lot. It's trying not to be rude, but it's very fucking arty. Let's say that it's a very French science fiction movie that very much appealed to me, but I could see it will not appeal to a wider audience. I think it will only appeal to you if you are willing to, if you have one patience and are willing to go on a sort of more, you know, Lynchian, Cronenbergy type journey than a standard sort of sci-fi horror-y type inflicted movie.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to look at. There's some wonderful scenes of you know, Paris and actually LA. There's some sort of shots of LA, and the director, I think, had been planning to do this for a while, and the original actor that he had for the George McKay role died in a skiing accident.
Oh my god.
Gaspar Ulel, who was in, the only thing I think I saw him in was the prequel Hannibal movie, Hannibal Rising.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought was a pretty duff movie, but
it was, yeah. Those movies got worse and worse, especially when it's like, how old is he meant to be now? Because, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, he died, and he decided that he didn't want to pick an actor that could be compared to him. So he decided he was going to pick an American or an English actor, and apparently he saw within minutes of seeing George McKay's audition, was like, "Yep, that's him. That's, you know,
right.
got the guy I want." And he's great. He's, you know, suitably sort of dreamy and sort of ethereal at times, particularly in the sort of the 1900s section, and then he's unhinged and creepy in the 2000s bit, and sort of, you know, in between in the future bits. It's a really sort of, I would say, I don't want to say thought provoking, but it is there are some nice ideas in it, that, you know, the idea of self, and the idea of again, cliche at the moment, AI running things and taking over, sort of thing, to whatever degree. And I mean, it does make me laugh at the moment, because like almost every other advert you see, you know, at the moment is, oh, this new thing's got AI and it's done it with AI. It's like, okay.
Oh,
sure.
I know, everything's got fucking AI. Like, why does my
like,
fridge?
Why do I need AI in
what's
that?
What's the fucking point? Like, oh, your fridge can have AI. I'm like, what?
Exactly. It's like,
why?
Okay.
Why do I need that?
My fridge to have AI?
I don't need it. I'm good.
So it's sort of it's funny, but it, you know, I guess it's timely.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, as I say, it's really not going to be for everybody because it's weird and long and RE. So it's only going to be. I can only recommend it to somebody who would be interested in seeing something different. Because at the moment, it's certainly not your mainstream movie. It's not a standard issue film. It's quite an interesting and as I cliche to say, a thought provoking movie with really good performances and actually well directed. As I said, some of the symbolism is a bit heavy at times, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, I get it, fine. You don't need to keep hammering it like at home. And as I said, it is too long, but I think if you want a different experience, I think I would recommend it, and it's a really interesting movie.
Cool. Well, I will probably check that out. It sounds interesting. So, shall we take a break?
Yeah.
From film and do a TV show? Because we have both seen now, because it came out ages ago. God, it feels like it's been ages since I watched this. Probably has been because we had some delays and stuff, didn't we? But Terminator Zero, the Netflix sci-fi anime series. I thought the trailer looked terrible for this.
So did I. I wasn't going to watch it. The only reason I watched it is because you said.
And the only reason I watched it is because a friend said that I trust was like, "Hey, it's actually really good." I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a go." I was pleasantly surprised by this. To be honest, I don't know how you felt though. So, I guess briefly, this is, I think, one of the things in going into the broad kind of synopsis for this series. One of my main reasons for really enjoying this is that it's not a rehash of the Terminator. What we have here,
to a certain degree.
Well, it has other story going on. It's not just Terminator has gone back in time and must protect person while other person is a threat from another Terminator. So all of the sequels can fuck off apart from Terminator 2. It's 1997 is when we're back to 1997, which I very much appreciate. Judgment Day is 1997. However, what we have here is the Japanese side of the story. So whilst Judgment Day is taking place in America, Japan has its own AI system that's being worked on by Malcolm Lee, called Kokoro, and the central premise of the film is kind of around Skynet versus this Kokoro AI system, which is not yet online, and there's much debate in the show as to whether it's a good idea to bring it online. The series starts pre-Judgment Day. So it's kind of in the run-up. Now, Malcolm Lee claims that he's having nightmares of the future. He's had visions of the future. And therefore, he is developing this AI to compete with Skynet and combat Skynet ultimately and protect the people of the world, or at least of Japan. Meanwhile, or not meanwhile, because that makes no sense in this context, in the future...
it depends on how you look at the future.
Yes, that's true. So. In the future, we do have the traditional Terminator story where a Terminator has been sent back in time, and it is now up to our hero, or one of our heroes, to be sent back in time to fight the Terminator and fulfill their mission. So we do have that traditional story of someone going back in time and a robot going back in time, but we also have this interesting 1997 present day, look at the Japanese culture in the run up to Skynet, to 1997, and we get to see like Japan's side of the story. I tried to avoid as many spoilers as I could there. I think I did all right.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I didn't really like it.
No. So, talk me through it.
So I like some of the ideas.
Yeah.
I like that it was Japan and not,
Me too.
LA or, States.
Mm.
I like the idea that someone's. I mean, when you say it, it sounds dumb as fuck. But
yeah, I know.
the idea that I'm going to make an AI
to fight an
talk
AI
to the other AI and say, "Hey, AI, humans are actually quite nice."
But there is a little more to it than that, because he is kind of raising this AI himself and spending a lot of But yes, I get your point totally.
The twists, as it were obvious.
Yeah. Oh my god, when she went back in time and she spoke to the old lady, I was like, I know who that fucking is.
Yeah.
Like immediately, I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the nanny.
Yeah.
Was like, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Like,
there was very few moments in this that surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that like for like a brief second was surprising to me was like midway through the show, Judgment Day happens.
Yeah.
And it surprised me for like a split second, and I was like, well, no, of course it has to happen, because otherwise none of this works. Like obviously it happens, right? So that only briefly, but yeah, there was no real kind of twist that shocked me in this. I agree.
Yeah, the fact that they actually go, yep, Judgment Day, there you go, this is it. Yep. Here's the missiles. It's like, oh, okay, fine, that's cool.
I thought it was a really good scene, actually. That whole bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good. I like the animation.
Yes, me too. And I didn't like it in the trailer, which is weird, but I did like it in the actual show. So
the Terminator is occasionally made me chuckle because his eyes were a bit boss-eyed.
Yeah, but that
something about his eyes that just kept making me laugh. And
I don't think it's intentional, but
no,
that was the same as James Cameron's original. He's quite boss-eyed if you look at Arnold's eye versus the Terminator's eye, and Terminator 2. Actually, they've never been good with the eyes.
It looks worse on him because
it does. Yeah,
the sort of the humanoid eye is quite wide, and the iris and the pupil is so tiny.
Yes.
Makes it look worse when he looks in a different direction, because it just looks like he's looking in 3 different directions.
Yeah, totally.
So that sort of made me chuckle, which was fine. I kind of like the idea of the built-in weapon.
Yes.
I think it was a bit like, okay, can we see some reloading or something? Because how many fucking things are you going that?
Unlimited ammo.
Yeah, he's completely unlimited ammo, which was a bit like. Oh my god, the Kennys. Oh, there was so much Kennys. There's 3 Kennys in it.
There are. I agree.
It spent over half of the series just chasing them around.
You're right about that. The first half of the show definitely has some drag, and it's frustrating because there are scenes that fascinate me, like when she goes to buy the robot cat, and you realize, oh god, there's like robots all over Japan, and they're like working in shops, and I was like, this is really sorry.
Some of that stuff was very cool. I liked a lot
and it's
of that.
really interesting, but it only lasts for like a brief second. They're in a shop, and she's like, "Oh, look, robot," and then it's like, "Anyway, back to these kids," and they're like, "Oh no, I want to see more of that. Show me more of that."
I mean, there were some nice creepy moments. There was,
yeah.
The moment where they're in that underground city and they find the room full of them.
Yes.
That was like, oh shit, that's really fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're sort of, they're like big toaster-headed robots, aren't they? They're like sort of like supposed to be fun-looking robots, which actually are creepier than
I always think that I think people always kind of go with the creepy human robot, but I do think there's something way more creepy about a non-human looking box-headed thing, because I'm like, in reality that's really scary when you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of Japanese anime like robots that are supposed to be cute but are not.
No. Kind of terrifying. Yeah.
So you had that I just think it was too long. They needed to.
I agree, it's too long. Yeah.
They chopped down. Lost at least 3 episodes, I think. 3 episodes.
Yeah, I mean it's an argument I have with most TV shows that I watch, but yeah, you're right, absolutely.
The future girl was okay.
I thought she was fine, actually. I actually
There's
really
a number of times where she got hit, and I was like, "Oh, she's just dead. There's no way."
Yes. So I agree with that. There are definitely some. It's weird because I had to think back because there were bits with the other girl, and I was like, I'm pretty sure she's a Terminator anyway. And then when it happened to her, I was like, oh, maybe she's also got some cybernetic bit. No, she could just take a pounding apparently.
I mean, annoyingly, there were times where she gets damage, and it works. It's like, oh shit, she's limping, or in one case, there's one particular injury.
Yes, which I'm guessing is going to stay.
Which was really well done. But then there were continuous bits where she's like, oh,
slammed into walls, and yeah.
It's like, well, she's not fucking getting up from that, but she does. It's okay, fine.
I mean, it's an anime, so I kind of like, you know.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of leeway. I will give it, because you want, there's a certain amount of punch ups that you want to see,
and it's an anime. It's an anime style, so I guess maybe I'm being a bit too easy on it, but I'm used to seeing people get thrown into walls and through things in anime and being generally okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm just applying that here, and that may not be fair, but yeah.
The conversation between, was it Malcolm?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Malcolm and the AI that he's making.
Yes.
Again, that was too fucking long, and that went on for.
It did. I thought it was kind of interesting, but I agree it was long.
The annoying thing is there was some genuine moments where they were like, talking about humanity and whether they should be saved and all that sort of thing. There were some moments that were like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
Or if you just chop that down and get rid of all the bloody waffly shit, it would have been a nice, tight little conversation.
Yes, definitely. You're right. I think I really enjoyed this show, but I agree, and I think the biggest problem with it is there's too many episodes. I completely agree.
To be honest, the stuff that I loved the most happened in like the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, it certainly gets a lot better towards the end. It takes a long time to get going. Once we get there,
I watched 3 episodes and was like, I don't think I can continue with this. I'm getting bored and annoyed. Mainly with the Kennys.
Yeah.
But I sort of I thought I sort of left it a day or so and came back and thought, right, I'm going to give it another go. So I stuck with it, and it's not hideous, and I will say it's fucking better than almost any of the sequels.
Well, it's a low bar, but yes, it is definitely the best thing after Terminator 2. Yes.
Yeah, anything after Terminator 2 is shit. I mean, even 3 has its moments and it's all right, but I would say this is better than that. But it just needed to be cut down and sort of edited a bit better, because there was so much faffing. And it didn't help that I just didn't like a lot of the characters.
I mean, that's going to be killer for anything, really, isn't it? If you don't vibe with the characters. Now, the kids did annoy me. I'm not going to pretend like they didn't. So I'm with you on that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm kind of hopeful. I think it leaves it in an interesting position. I would watch a sequel series. I
don't know whether I would.
No, well, that's fine. I
mean, there were some genuinely good moments. There's a really good moment with the kids, where they've reconnected. Try not to spoil much. They've reconnected, and the nanny finds something, and they bump into some humans.
Yes.
And
so that is a good scene. I agree.
What happens there with the kids and the older kid, his reaction and what he does was really good.
Yeah,
it was really nicely done scene. It was lovely.
Yes,
but there's so much guff and annoyance between that scene and like little moments of good that it's just really annoyed me.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about this sometimes, how a show that's just shit is in many ways far less frustrating than a show with bits you really like.
Yeah, because you can just write it off and go, yeah, that it was shit. So, when you see little kernels of good, it's more annoying because you just think, oh, this could have been.
Yeah.
So I'm not. It's not a write off, but I did struggle to finish it.
It's not for everyone.
But there's some really nice imagery. There's some really nicely acted scenes. Some of the like I said, that one in particular I thought was a very good one. And there's some of the sort of the second twist, as it were.
Yes.
With Malcolm. Which again, of course, you can see it coming a mile.
Well, I not only did I see it coming, but I was fucking hoping, because I was like, if this is all based off of a dream, what the fuck is going on? Like that I was like, this better be a twist.
Again, there was all these lovely little moments in that.
Yeah.
That think, okay, and then there's these moments where you just go, oh my god, did he just do that?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. All right, fine, sure. So there was these lovely little bits that were nice, but overall, it wasn't really for me.
Oh well, it was for the most part for me. I agree, though, with pretty much every criticism. I agree. I think it just annoyed me less, but yes, I agree. It definitely needed to be shorter. I think if it was 6 episodes even, it probably would have been a lot better.
It needed to lose at least 2 episodes.
Yeah.
It just needed a little sort of chopping down and tidying up.
Well, this actually leads me, the talk of kids and annoyance of kids, leads me nicely into the movie that I watched, called Star of Acre. This is based on a book that I have not read. Sorry, book fans. I'm told by someone who loves the book that this is reasonable, though. It's reasonably close. It changes a few things, but they didn't have any complaints about it. So I guess if you're a fan of the book, you may love it. There are 2 types of modern horror. It's like 2 tropes in modern horror that I just can't stand. They annoy me. And I instantly am just like, I'm not... Like, usually I will just not bother watching the movie because I'm so bored of the trope. One of those tropes is there's someone living in the wall and in my house, right? And you can always know, because if you read online, you'll be on Netflix or Amazon or wherever, and you'll be reading it about person moves into a new home and then person in the wall. Ignore it, boring, move on. Other one is my kid is an asshole, which I like in like The Omen. I love, right? But after that, I'm like, it gets more and more annoying to me, and it's such a trope of modern cinema with this, like, my kid's evil. I hate it. And I didn't realize that this movie was that, but when it started, I was like, oh god, it's my kid's an asshole movie, and I'm really not into that. Acting is superb.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. And then the kid died. And I was like, oh, and he died really early on, so that's not much of a spoiler. And I was like, oh, okay, it's not one of those movies. It's something else. This movie is terrific. This is a British folk horror, which is very in vogue at the moment. I would say we're borderline oversaturation of folk horror, but I love folk horror. So I like, much like Westerns, I'm never going to be bored of. You can keep throwing Westerns at me forever. It's fine. I kind of feel like that with folk horror, but I appreciate we are probably reaching saturation point. But this film stars Matt Smith and
I misheard what you said. I thought you said Star Maker.
Star of Acre.
Star of Acre. Sorry.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Okay. Yes. So it stars Matt Smith as Richard, and Morphy Clark as Juliet. And basically, he's an archaeologist, and he lives with his wife and their son. And their son claims he's been hearing things. He's hearing these whistles, and at the start of the movie, he knackers a horse, pretty much. And it's quite clear there's something wrong with the kid, i.e. my kid is an asshole now. And they can't quite figure out why, but it's clear that Richard has been abused in the past. He had an abusive father. There's some real history there where he doesn't want to see his son be treated like he was treated, and he's clearly quite upset whenever his son is, they take him to the hospital and they take him to these places to be tested and whatnot. So they kind of live in the middle of nowhere, and he kind of works in this school, and it's set in the 70s, so it's all very much that vibe, and it kind of like almost immediately you kind of can't help but think of Hammer and think of like there's kind of like or like folk horror of the 70s. It's very much in that vibe. So I really don't want to spoil this movie, so I have to be somewhat careful. All I can say is that I thought this film was something when I started, and then as I said, it's not that. I think the story of this is really, really good. How close it is to the book, again, I can't speak to that, but I thought the story presented in the film is brilliant. It's relatively straightforward and simple. Matt Smith, his performance in this is superb. It might be my favorite Matt Smith performance. I think he's wonderful in this. And the same with Morfydd Clark. Wonderful. I genuinely really well acted, really well directed. Some of the shots in this movie are superb. And I never thought I would find like a hare to be kind of terrifying, but they manage it. There's some creepy bits in this movie.
I mean, there's a pretty scary one in The Witch.
That's true. That is true. I think The Witch, it's always the goat that overshadows. But you're right. Yeah. There is. You're absolutely right.
Black Phillip does overshadow quite a lot in that movie.
Yeah, Black Phillip is just a bastard. But yeah, I honestly cannot recommend this film enough. It's a really, really well made small folk horror. I know you're going to watch it, Matt, which is why I'm kind of like, maybe I should wait off before we get into more of a spoilery talk, because I feel like there's quite a lot to unpack in this movie when we get to it. As simple as the story is, I think there's so many wonderful shots. There's so many wonderful acting scenes. I highly, highly recommend checking this one out when you can.
I'm just really glad that Matt Smith's been in some really good stuff lately.
Oh, yeah, he really has. He's like, I was worried after Doctor Who, because he was in Doctor Who, then he was in that shit Terminator film, and didn't even get to be in it right in the end. Didn't he?
Yeah, they cut him out, didn't they?
They cut him out completely, and I was like, oh god, is that like, is he done?
Wasn't he supposed to be in one of the Star Wars movies as well, and they cut him out of that?
Yeah, and I was really worried that he was just going to disappear,
Yeah,
but no, he is back.
He was in that were the sort of like quite low key that didn't really do very much. There was one with where he was a bad guy and he shaved his head for, which was really good. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh yes, no, that was good. Yeah,
it had and now I'm going to forget her name. The redhead lady from Serenity and Mad Men.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know who you mean.
Yeah. Oh god, I really like that movie. Lost River.
Yes.
His character was called Bully.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that. It was a really weird. Christina Hendricks. It's a really weird sort of Saoirse Ronan movie. I liked it a lot. I think it was Ryan Gosling's directorial debut. I think.
Oh, okay. I think like one of the things this movie does supremely well, and it is. And there is a definite art to this, because it's a if you're not very talented, this will come off as really plodding and annoying. this film has that long take scenes of like looking at someone's face or looking at a landscape, and just the tone, the music, the performance. You just get this, even from like the opening of the movie, there is just a sense of like impending doom all over this movie that just grows as the film goes on. It kind of reminds me a lot of like Ringo in that way, whereas like, you know, on the surface not an awful lot happens, but it just builds and builds, and by the end you're like, oh my god, I feel, you know, overwhelmed by, you know, by whatever's going on in the Ring. But you know, same here with Starvaker. I don't know why I'm avoiding spoilers for the Ring. Like everyone's seen that, right? But anyway, whatever. I'm in a avoid spoiler mode. So yeah, I genuinely thought this was brilliant.
Martha Clark is really good in St. Maud. I thought she was.
Oh, that was a great movie. That was one of the best films I saw in the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I might have been wrong about Terminator. I'm pretty sure you're going to love this one though. So this is another one, and
Okay.
this is only 98 minutes long. So if I'm wrong about this one, you've got way less time to waste.
Well, that's something.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the trailer. So
yeah, it's this. I really liked this film a lot.
I mean, like I said, Matt Smith's absolutely. Have you seen the second season of House of the Dragon?
No, I haven't seen the first season of House of the Dragon.
Oh, dude!
I know. I need to.
The second season is not quite as good, but the first season is phenomenal.
Mm.
There are episodes in season 2 that are like, fuck, that was good. I can't remember what episode it is now. Is it 4 or 6? There's one episode where there's a big old fucking dragon fight, and it's fucking awesome. It's really good. So yeah, I would highly recommend.
I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah,
about House of Dragon.
There's still time for it to turn to shit, but
I know. I think that's why I'm hesitant. I'm like, maybe I'll wait until you've finished, and if it's all good, then I'll just grab all of it and watch it. You know, because I'm like,
I certainly did that with the first season. I thought I'm not fucking touching that until it's over, and people have said it's good. So I did wait, but the second season. Obviously, they had some problems, so it got cut short. And it definitely feels like the end was a bit of a disappointment. But overall, some great performances and some really good stuff. The difference is that with the first season, Paddy Considine's character is so fucking amazing.
Right.
His performance in that is so good. He absolutely kills in that. There's one. Well, there's a number of fucking awesome scenes, but there's one scene in particular that's near the end of the season, and he is just amazing. Absolutely fantastic. And I think from what I've heard as well, he doesn't like watching his stuff. He never watches his own stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But his wife and his daughter were watching it, and they stopped and apparently came on this particular scene, and apparently they stopped and said, "Look, just come and watch this scene.
Look how good you are, for God's sake." Yeah.
Just come and watch this scene with us." And he did, and he said he sort of like grudgingly admitted that he was quite good in it.
Fair enough. But yeah, I highly recommend Starvaker. So you've watched another film, I believe.
I have indeed. I have also watched The Beast Within.
The Beast Within. Tell us about The Beast Within.
So this is another based on a book. Starring Kit Harington, and it's. I think there's also there's an '80s movie as well which you've probably seen, which is same title.
Do you know when you said the title, I was like, I know this title from somewhere, so maybe.
Yeah, so I think it takes the sort of. I think the overall story of the book and changes it quite a bit. So I think it doesn't specify a time that it's set, but it does look very 70s. So I'm guessing it's set in the 70s.
Okay.
So we've got wonderful performance by a little girl called Carolina Springle.
Okay.
Plays Willow, and Ashley Cummings plays Imogen, the father, and we've got James Cosmo, who's always wonderful. So in this sort of fortified farm, comes sort of almost like a manor house. It's got a very gothic feeling. It's very sort of it's like a fortified house, but it's crumbling and it's falling apart, and it's sort of grubby, and it's got broken windows and stuff. But it's like a little compound in the middle of nowhere in England, in the English countryside. And Willow is a little girl who they don't tell you what it is she's got wrong with her, but she has breathing problems, and she uses an air canister to help her with her breathing.
Okay.
And she lives on this farm with her mum and dad and her grandfather. Now, very early on, we see her watch her dad basically in this big fur blanket being put in a Land Rover, which a pig is also being put into, and then they drive off.
Right.
And she keeps seeing this happen over and over. You know, whenever there's a full moon, Dad gets taken away and comes back, and Mum seems a bit banged up, and you know he's all bloodied, and he comes home sort of, but they try and keep her away. She keeps saying, "Well, I don't know what's going on." And they're like, "No, you don't need to know. It's all fine. Everything's fine." It's like, "Of course it's fucking fine. It looks great."
Yeah.
Her grandfather clearly doesn't like Noah, Kit Harington's character. There are hushed conversations between the grandfather and the mother. That there are lots of things of Willow, straining to hear through the sort of walls and through the doors, trying to, get some kind of clue as to what is really going on. And she makes these matchstick models of basically she's kind of recreated the farm.
Okay.
And eventually she sneaks into the car sort of during the next full moon, and she follows her parents. They drive further into the middle of nowhere, if you can get further into the middle of nowhere when you're already in the middle of nowhere. They go further into the middle of nowhere, and they come to this ruined, what looks like the sort of like a basement ruin, of a castle with, it's basically like a pit that has walls and a gate that has a lock on it. And the dad goes in, and she sees what's going on, and then the dad sort of comes out, and the next day sort of thing, the dad sort of says, "Oh, there was a family curse and all that sort of stuff, and my grandfather used to tell these tales of what would happen to him, but I never met my grandfather. I only know these stories through my father." Right. And it's all fine. It's all good. So there were some really nice things in this movie. There's a lot of very much like you said with the last movie, that it's very much a sort of, it feels like a 70s horror movie.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that one is very heavily set in the 70s, but yeah.
So you again, you have these wonderful shots of kind of just Willow's face as she's listening to, what's going on, and there are these like shots of just looking through like broken windows and casually observing what's going on.
Yeah.
Which were all, I must say, beautifully done. Kit Harington is very good as a sort of almost Jekyll and Hyde sort of lovely dad, I'm going to murder you sort of thing. The mum is great as clearly a woman who loves her husband, but is at the end of her rope with what's going on.
Yeah.
And most impressively, the Carolina Springall is wonderful as Willow, who's you know this little girl who's just trying to find out what's going on with her family, and she's got these health problems, and obviously it all goes tits up. I'm not going to spoil too much.
Sure, yeah.
It obviously goes tits up, and it becomes a bit of a sort of survival sort of thing. The thing with this movie is it's not really a horror.
Okay.
It's more of a sort of domestic drama, really.
Mm.
So I think people will be very disappointed if they go in thinking this is a werewolf movie.
Sure.
Because it's more about, inflicted damage by families, and again, I can't say too much without spoiling.
Yeah.
What happens, but I really enjoyed it for what it is. It's only an hour and a half, and it sort of moves along at a really good pace, and it keeps, well, it certainly kept me intrigued as to what's going on. The ending was a little disappointing, but you could see what was going to happen anyway.
Mm.
But it kind of works. It's it's all right. The effects aren't great. They're not too hideous. The werewolf, I think, was mostly practical.
Cool.
With a bit of CG.
Mm.
And it looks, although it looks it's more in line with the hairless Wolfman sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
It works. It's not too bad. I quite liked it. A little rubbery, but it was okay. It was a nice design. It's hard to sort of endorse it as a horror movie, because it wants to be. It's certainly,
right. Yeah.
And it's sold as a horror, but it's not. It's such a sort of. It's more of a gothic family secret movie,
which I like that kind of movie though. That works for me.
It's creepy house.
Yeah.
Family with trying to keep it together while keeping everything in check, and also just a little girl growing up and trying to be normal. So I would recommend it as a drama, a spooky drama. Let's say let's call it a sort of low key horror drama. Mostly because of the three. Because James Cosmo, he's always great, but he doesn't really get a lot to do other than being grumpy grandpa, which he does very well. But it's mostly the sort of the interactions between Willow and her mum that are at times really heartbreaking. I thought, the just the sort of the mum. There's a sort of lovely moment where they drive to the town to pick up some sort of plot supplies and things, and the mum says, "Hey," she stops and she pulls out and she changes her clothes. I'm guessing to sort of look more normal, because normally she's just in dungarees and she's walking around and stuff.
Yeah.
So she changes her clothes and she says, "Hey, why don't you drive?" And there's a lovely little moment where she lets her drive. So there's these lovely little, little moments like that are really cool and really well done. I think the main problem is it's just not a horror movie. It's and especially I think people will be very disappointed with the end if they're certainly if they're thinking that and it's just not one of those jump scare horror movies that people like so much. It's much more of a thoughtful movie than that, and I really liked it. It
sounds interesting. It definitely that definitely sounds like it's up my street. Actually, what you've described, I'm actually kind of intrigued.
yeah, it's a nice little movie. It's clearly didn't have a massive budget, and it's, you know, mostly survives on its performances, and it look, you know, it's pretty. It's not. It's a really nice looking movie. So I would recommend it with the caveat that it's a horror movie light.
Sure.
You know, it's that sort of it's more of a domestic drama than horror.
Mm.
But if you're willing to go with that, and it's a nice little movie.
Huh. Cool. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I will almost certainly check that out. So I think that's all of the films, isn't it?
That is all the films.
I think we're caught up. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yes. James Earl Jones.
Oh my god, yeah, that happened.
Yep. I mean, 93 is pretty damn good.
It is good, and you know, I said this when Christopher Lee went. We've just reached that era.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but oh my god, what a talented man.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, it's probably, you know, the voice of Darth Vader, or, you know, Coming to America.
Yep.
For me, it's Thulsa Doom.
Yeah.
Conan is for me. That's the thing I associate. Well, that and Coming to America, because obviously the voice of James Earl Jones is one thing as Vader, but his performances in those two films, for me, films that I rewatched a lot in my childhood. Yeah, forever. Always loved James Earl Jones in anything he's in, to be honest.
Yeah, and you knew that even if it was in a terrible movie,
he'd be good.
It's gonna be good in it.
Yeah.
No matter what. I mean, there was some. What was the? Oh, there was a really terrible '90s superhero movie where he plays this. It's like over the top old guy. It's a really funny performance. I can't remember what was it. Meteor Man?
Meteor Man. That sounds familiar, but
he's really funny. He's like this sort of old guy who's trying to be hip, sort of thing. I think he's got all these like wigs and things that he wears. It's a really funny performance in a pretty terrible movie.
Yeah. But again, you know he will give it his all regardless.
Yeah. And that voice. I mean, apparently when he was little, he had a stutter.
Oh, really? That's
interesting. Most of his early years, he was almost silent. It was apparently an English teacher that helped him with his speech and drawing him out of himself. Yes,
the film is called The Meteor Man.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at it. I don't think I've seen this film, but I might have to.
Oh, I would give it a go. It's with you know.
It's an early '90s comedy. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, with in mind that it's a terrible movie, but it is fun. It has its moments.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, I mean, God, he's, you know, I guess to a lot of people as well, he would be Mufasa, right? Lion King, another, you know,
movie I've never seen.
Oh, I've seen it. I saw it in the cinema actually, Lion King. But yeah, he just such an amazing voice actor, an amazing screen actor, just superb.
Just a few little things that piqued my interest. Netflix and Adam Sandler are going to bring us Happy Gilmore 2.
Oh. Well, we'll see.
And it's another 30-year gap sequel.
Yeah, this is what always worries me with these
it's happening.
Big gap sequels worry me.
Yep.
Coming to America, for example, speaking of James Earl Jones. As glad as I was to see him briefly in that.
Cop, and you know,
I liked that a bit more than I expected to, but it was still. I'm still never going to rewatch it.
I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. It's certainly better than the third one.
Yes, exactly. I think that's probably why I like it.
And I've heard mostly good things about the Beetlejuice movie.
I'm hearing reasonably positive. I'm curious. I was tempted.
I'm not going to go to the cinema to see it.
That's where I'm at. I just don't feel like it. I feel like if direct to DVD was a thing still, it would be direct. It would be in Asda on the shelf right now, and I'd buy it. The only thing that sets it apart is the returning cast. You know, it's got quite a decent cast, but I don't know. There's just something about it.
Well, actually, there's also another funny thing as well. Obviously, I can't remember what his name is now. the guy who played Shooter McGavin, the bad guy. So he's returning for this movie.
Okay.
Christopher McDonald, so he's returning for this. But in Beverly Hills Cop 4, he was Shooter McGavin. In the scene where they're in the golf course,
yeah,
and they crash the helicopter,
yeah,
that was actually Shooter McGavin.
Oh,
Which is he's a golf course, he's doing that. It's like, he's just like doing it. It's like, no, apparently it is Shooter McGavin.
Okay,
like, okay.
All right.
Like, I forgot to mention that when we were
I did. Yeah, wow.
I love Happy Gilmore. I think it's
it's the gap that worries me.
Yeah.
Again, but having said that, I mean, that I really enjoyed that last Adam Sandler movie we watched.
The Spaceman.
Yeah.
Was amazing.
I thought it was really, really good. So,
I still haven't got around to seeing Uncut Gems, but I've heard great things about that.
I've heard very good things about that. So,
he's still a little hit and miss, but yeah. I'm willing to give it a go.
I'll certainly give it a go. I just approach these kind of long gap project sequels with a little kind of hesitancy and a little concern. But yes, hopefully it'll be good. Cautiously optimistic. Let's call it that.
Yeah. So this is a weird one we've got here. John Woo.
Yes.
His next project will be a musical with Sparks. The band Sparks, that is.
Okay. That's odd.
Yeah. So apparently, and I did know this, he's been wanting to do a musical for years. And at one point, he was going to
Hard-Boiled the musical. If you're going to tell me he's going to do Hard-Boiled the musical.
I'd love to see Hard-Boiled
Actually,
the
musical. I think Killer, the Killer would be better as a musical.
Yeah, The Killer would definitely make more sense. Especially considering there's a musician in it.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, his remake of that is coming soon, I think, isn't it? So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to that, but, it's John Woo, so I'll give it a go.
A musical with Sparks?
So yeah, he I can't remember whether it was in the 90s. I think he was working on a Phantom of the Opera.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, with John Travolta, I think.
Wow. Okay. Well, in the 90s, yeah.
I'm guessing after Face Off.
Yeah, presumably it definitely would have been before Battlefield Earth.
Yeah.
Although Battlefield Earth's like 2000-ish, right? I think
so.
Yeah.
So I love John Woo and I love Sparks. It sounds fucking batshit to me.
I'm just going to be waiting for them to find handguns and doves flying around. I'm just like, how are you going to work this in?
Well, he says he's not. It's not going to be. He says he doesn't need stuntmen for this one. So
no, I mean, it must be a change of pace, really.
Yeah,
it's like I could just don't have to worry about any of that.
I think.
He's a great director. I'm sure he'll
Crusoe, I think it's called Crusoe.
Right.
I think that's how you pronounce that word. Crucior. Yep. I've never seen that word before, so I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but that's supposedly what it's going to be called. Yeah, I have no idea, but again, like Sparks, like John Woo, why the hell not?
Yeah.
It kind of sounds weird and a little bit awful, but this trailer did come out a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know whether you've seen it or not. Have you seen the latest from the Pooniverse?
No, I haven't.
Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare.
Oh Christ!
Yeah,
I'm assuming it looks as bad as it sounds.
Oh yes. It's so it looks like Peter Pan is a circus performer who steals children. Okay,
sure. I mean that actually, like, from if you're turning something into a horror movie,
yeah,
the Forever Young thing, I see what they. Yeah, okay.
Well, there was a Comic-Con.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think this will be an awful film. I'm just saying. Just saying that has some logic to it. I can see how they arrived. I haven't
seen the second Winnie the Pooh one.
No,
but the first one was terrible. But I
remember you had fun. Yeah,
there were some really genuinely creepy moments in that movie. it was still bad, but the funny thing is the performance of this guy is clearly channeling Ledger's Joker.
Oh.
There's a lot of Ledger's Joker going on here, but honestly, it looks awful, but I'm so tempted.
Well, why not?
It looks like a sort of car crash that I just kind of want to see.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
So there's that. And latest trailer for Salem's Lot.
Yes.
I thought it looked pretty good.
I'm quite hopeful for that. That's got potential.
Yeah, it's got Bill Pullman's kid in it.
Yeah.
And
I liked Salem's Lot, the miniseries movie thing.
I like the 70s version, and I actually quite enjoyed the Rutger Hauer.
Yeah.
Was it 90s, early 2000s version?
Mm-hmm.
Which was not great, but it had its moments.
Yeah, it's again not terrible. Yeah.
I mean, the original miniseries absolutely terrified, I think, a generation of kids. The tapping on the window scene.
Yeah, that scene in particular. I think.
Crap,
Yeah.
so many people. I mean, the directors previously worked on. I think it was he worked on the It movies, and I think his debut directing one was the Annabelle Comes Home.
Oh, I hated that movie.
Yeah, so it's
fine. I mean, fine. That's the only one I didn't like of his, from the sound of it. So
yeah, so it's it sounds like it could be all right. There was a weird thing I read about they're not using Kurt Barlow as the bad guy, which I thought was odd. But
I guess we'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah,
I'm quite hopeful for this though. There's definitely potential there.
Yeah, and the director did say he wanted to make vampires scary again.
Well, maybe he was if he's our generation.
Yeah,
he was terrified by that. By the tapping on the window, and he's like, I want to do that to kids now. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think there have been some pretty scary vampires in recent years. They're not. There are some nice little sort of indie vampire movies in recent times that we've seen. And I'm hopeful for this.
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's the lot.
Cool. Well, that is it for us. What are we doing next time, Matt? Have you got a movie in mind?
Tombstone.
Oh, yeah. That feels like forever ago that we agreed that. But yes, we're doing Tombstone. We will be back next week with Tombstone. I'm very much looking forward to rewatching Tombstone.
And interestingly, Netflix has just released a Wyatt Earp sort of docudrama.
Oh, cool.
Narrated by Ed Harris, I think it is.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I might also give that a watch to see, in conjunction, just to see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, in any case, we will be back next week. Until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll catch you next time.